welcome to the latest episode of the Slow Crafting Podcast. My name's Nadine and I'm coming to you today from the northwest of England near Manchester. Now, it's been a while. No other excuse than life got in the way and I couldn't muster the motivation to podcast. Also, I don't think really in the run up to Christmas I was really doing that much crafting that wasn't work related, so it wouldn't have been a particularly exciting or interesting episode. Slightly different venue today. I'm in the dining room. You can see my very cluttered, child-friendly, child-decorated fridge. But I was trying to work out an angle that didn't show all the children's school certificates on the wall and things and give away too much personal information. So you've just got creative chaos behind me, which is pretty much my crafting style anyway, so it fits in well. Right, so what have I been doing? Looking at it now, because it's taken me, about 2 months to podcast, I've actually got quite a bit to show you. I've got a finished design that launched just before Christmas, a design that's going to come out next week or the week after, and then I've got 2 finished objects, a work in progress, and an upcoming design to tell you about. So yeah, all go. Normally at the beginning of the year, I know it's February, but my first podcast of the year will generally be a roundup of what went well and what didn't last year, what I want to do differently this year. But quite frankly, it's too far into the year to be doing too much of a roundup. And this year, pretty similar aims as last year. But since the pandemic, my making of plans, strict plans, has been taking a bit of a bashing. It's like, I'll outline a few ideas of what I want to get done during the year, but I appreciate that life may well get in the way and not let those come to fruition. So yes, I've got a list of things that I want to learn, whether it be for personal reasons or for business reasons. Some of them are craft related, some of them are business related, and then a list of projects that I want to finish off. I might actually insert a list here of all the projects that I need to finish, because last year I did do a list of works in progress that I wanted to finish, or unfinished objects, but then somehow managed to add more to the list during the course of the year, which wasn't really planned. And then so I've got unfinished objects I want to get finished. I've got designs that I want to publish this year, because I think I managed to do, I reissued some that had been like just website downloads before, but now they're available as PDFs, and then I published a couple of new patterns as well. So I think I maybe got about 8 released last year, and I want to see if I can try and do 6 new designs this year, but we'll see. What else? Yes, I've got my unfinished objects I want to finish. I've got designs that I want to get done. I sat down and went through what my priority makes were, and I broke them down into things for me, things for the house, things for the Mark and the girls. Sorry, my other half and the girls. And then thought, if things fit into they're the things that I know I want to get done this year, ideally. And then I think I added a mending list to that as well. Things that I needed to mend. And then, what else? I should look at my journal, it's still in front of me. like I say, I didn't make firm plans, but I did do a list of what I roughly wanted to do. Oh yes, I know what it was. I went through my list of patterns that I paid for on Ravelry that I hadn't yet knit, and actually wrote them all down and went, right, these are the ones that I've paid for but haven't done anything with. I need to do something with those. So once I've started ticking off my unfinished objects and my designs, I can possibly start on some new patterns that have been sat as wasted money. So I actually went through and wrote down all the patterns that I had that I'd paid for. I didn't count the free patterns that I downloaded, because I thought, yeah, as much as I'd like to knit them, the ones that I paid for, I felt more obliged to knit those. So I went through, listed the patterns. You're not going to be able to see that. What yarn weight they were, how much I needed, whether they were knitting or crochet, and I didn't list what type of garment they are, but the way I've got them arranged on my list, I know that the ones at the top are garments, and then it goes through shawls, through to socks, hats, and then a blanket. So I think the garments are probably going to be the most likely things to work on, but I've also added in information about where I've already got the wool to knit them. So the first three on the list, I have yarn to knit and I've got the pattern, and I just need to sit down and actually make them. Yeah, 3 cardigans, 2 of them are knitted and 1 of them's crocheted. I have all the wool. Just when I get a gap in my schedule, I can make a start on those, and I'll come to those at a different point, because I'm not going to say, I'm going to make this one next, because as we know, life. Right, I went off on a bit of a tangent there. Yeah, I said I was going to I mentioned mending and things I've mended. I am going to keep a tally, I think, at the end of the podcast of objects that I've mended each month, because I had been just saving them all up and doing a big batch all in one go, but it was very energy draining and time consuming to do it that way. So I'm going to try and do it a bit more as they come, so mend it as they come, rather than taking clothes out of circulation for months on end waiting to mend them, particularly for the girls, because sometimes they'll have grown out of something by the time I've mended it, so I'll try not to do that. But yeah, I also wanted to keep track of what type of mends I've been doing, because they seem to be very much patching of jersey material, fabric, like t-shirt material, cotton jersey, or repairing seams. So there's a lot of that goes on. So I just wanted to see what kind of mends I was doing, really just to keep track of whether the skills I had were along the right lines. Yeah, but I'll come back to that on another episode, I think. Right, so the design that I'd finished before Christmas and released as a free pattern was for this. It's been crumpled up a bit. This is the 30 Years and Counting shawl, which is made with some Debbie Bliss Cedar yarn, which is a blend of cotton and silk. The reason it's called 30 Years and Counting shawl is because I have a group of friends that I've been friends with for over 30 years, possibly coming up towards the 35 and over mark, but I'm not that old really. And we hadn't seen each other for a long time over the pandemic, but we managed to get together last October, and when one of my friends turned up, she had a bag of wool. She's like, I've not seen you for a long time, so I've brought you some wool. Or wait, cotton and silk. So she brought me some yarn, and I'm like, these are the type of friends that I want to have. This is why we've been friends for such a long time. So I wanted to make something out of the wool that the yarn that she'd given me that just made me happy, and thought I would share that pattern with everybody else as a free pattern to spread some of the love and the happiness and the friendship. So this is what we have. It's asymmetrical shawl that's worked side to side, so it's quite basic stripes in stockinette, and then some simple lace at the end. But it's very bright, it's very colourful, and I do say in the pattern, this bit here, this nice sophisticated stripe, is my friends that I've had for 30 odd years, and then this jazzy bit that might not be to everybody's taste is me. So together we make a beautiful shawl, but yeah, this bit might be an acquired taste. But no, the thing that's made me happiest is that sorry, I'm getting very excited. For Christmas, one of the things that I gave to my mum was some yarn to make this, and the pattern to make it as well. And I'm thinking, oh, I don't know if she will, because she loves my patterns, but my mum very much likes knitting what she's comfortable with. And like sometimes she'll knit something, but then she'll knit about 12 of them, because she's like, oh yeah, I can do this, and does it. And she doesn't necessarily. I'm very much a product knitter. My mum's more of a process knitter, in that she doesn't necessarily desperately want the thing at the end of it, but she just wants to enjoy knitting. She's not even that bothered about learning new techniques. She's just like, yes, I'll knit for comfort and repetition and to give me something to do. Unless it's for babies, then she's very much about product knitter and wants it. Gets very excited. But we haven't got any of those to knit for at the minute, so she's back to I'll just knit for relaxation. So yeah, so I wasn't sure she'd make it. But when I was talking to her on video call last night, she snickled off into the other room and came back and was like, look what I finished! And she'd made this shawl. And I was really excited. I didn't give her it in these colours, because these are a bit jazzy for my mum. So I think the one that she's done, the blues are similar. They might be a bit more muted. I don't think the second blue is quite as bright as that one. But then the lace section at the edge is a silver colour, because I thought that's more my mum. Not everybody's bright pink and jazzy. So yes, this is the 30 years and counting shawl. It's available for free on both Ravelry and Lovecrafts. Okay, and this will be a forever free pattern, because it's not a difficult construction or pattern or anything. So yes, but as you can see, it does crumple up more than a wool shawl would, but it is very, very, very soft. So it's a very nice snuggly hug. So that's my pattern that I finished before Christmas. Right, finished objects. I have two, and they're both garments. I know, shock horror, but this was on my finish what I start, unfinished objects, get them done pile. So last year I started the Winter is Coming cardigan by Joanna's Grace. It's a crochet cardigan, and I had so many dramas with it. It took me ages to get the right tension. I had to rip back the sleeves a good 6 times, because I just kept doing silly things wrong, because I wasn't concentrating, or I was looking at the pattern and going, yeah, I know what I'm doing, and then just not. And then I'd got it all. I got the body done, I got the arms done, I joined it at the arms, and then worked up here, tried it on, and went, oh, the sleeves are about a foot too long. Don't quite know how I've done that, but I've done it. Anyway, I ummed and ahed and ummed and ahed and ummed and ahed, and then went, do you know what, I cannot face ripping all of this back and then taking a foot out of the sleeves, because at that point my stitch count would have been off. And I'm like, do you know what, I'm just going to cut my crochet. yes, I know I did say that. I'm going to cut my crochet. Now, I was a bit sceptical because although I've steeked knitting, I wasn't sure how it worked with crochet because of the difference in the stitch construction and everything. So, but I'd seen somewhere, I think it was possibly Sandra from Cherry Heart, who talked about doing it. And I thought, I'll just look that up a bit more. So I went and searched on the internet of various different videos and tutorials and instructions on how to do it, and most of them were doing it on either a single crochet or a, sorry, that was American terms because they were American videos. They were either in UK terms done on a double or a treble crochet, or in American terms a single crochet or a double crochet. So it was very much a simple stitch pattern. There was one video that I watched that had done it on a complicated lace thing, but I didn't quite understand that one, so I just ignored it. But the cardigan is V-stitch. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that closely. So I wasn't sure how it would work on there, but I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go and see what happens. So I'll insert a little video here. Okay, so this is going to be the crochet steeking. Wish me luck. I've put in a lifeline here to catch all my stitches, and I'm going to, so it's gone under each of the V's, so hopefully when I unpick the rows underneath, this one won't come unravelled because it'll be caught on the lifeline. Now you could apparently, because I have never tried it yet, do slip stitch or chain all the way across to catch your stitches to stop them unravelling. But I'll put in the lifeline in first and I'll go in and do the chain afterwards. So I've caught that row. I need to cut this row of V's, but I need to make sure I've got a long enough tail on one of the ends, both ends probably, to weave in, because I'm not sure which direction I was working. But wish me luck. I'll go in with some scissors. And I'll do this on the other sleeve as well. Being careful not to cut too much. Right, I'll work the rest of the row across and then have a look how it is. Surprisingly, it seems to have worked so far. So here's the bit that I've cut off. There's the scraps. That's the tail that I managed to save to weave in the ends. I wanted to save as much of the yarn as I could because I haven't quite got enough to do the button band otherwise. So yeah, the next step is to do the same on the other sleeve and then chain across, unravel this, work the ribbon on this bit, and it should be done. Hopefully that explained exactly what I did and showed you the scary process of me taking my scissors to my crochet. And spoiler, it worked out fine. Yeah, so I now have a finished object with sleeves that are the appropriate length. And oh, look at that for a snuggly cardigan. I don't know if I'm going to be able to stand up and show you it properly. And it's got pockets. It's got no buttons, so you just have to snuggle into it. It's one of those cardigans, just wrap it round and keep warm. But yes, I really like the button band, and I was a bit worried that I wouldn't have enough yarn to finish because yes, I'd just winged it on the yardage front, but luckily I did because I'd used 2 balls of DK held together, which the pattern suggests. So they were both woolly knit yarns, countryside tweed, which isn't one that they do all the time. I'm not sure if they do it on the website. In the two different red colourways, Campion and something else. I've had it for a long time. I think they've both been discontinued, so there's no point in really me going into massive detail about the colourways, but yes, it's very comfy, and oh, I love the pockets. They're decent sized, and they're really easy to make. Surprisingly easy to make, so that was good. And the sleeves, as you can see, they're a nice length. The ribbon around the edge of here, excuse me, isn't like it's supposed to be. It's meant to be sort of more or less that depth, and worked sideways like this ribbon is. But I cut it there and then worked my ribbon down, doing like front post crochet ribbon. So it flares slightly and doesn't quite match. But I like it. I like it. It's nice. It's comfy. And it used up nearly a kilogram of yarn. Yeah, 940 grams. So took a big chunk out of my stash, finished a project. I've got a lovely wearable cardigan, and I'm very happy with it. So that was finished object number 1, and finished object number 2. Also a cardigan. I seem to be making quite a lot of cardigans at the minute. 1, I like them, and 2, I realised when I was going through my garment stash that a lot of my jumpers and things and cardigans that I made a few years ago, they're all sort of 3/4 length sleeves, and in winter my arms get cold. I don't like it. So I wanted some full length sleeved garments, which these are. The next one is one that I made up as I went along. It's a cardigan that is knit in a super chunky weight. So I looked for a random pattern on Ravelry and found one for a basic. I think it's actually for jumper. So I just used the numbers. It's knitted top down and it has a yoke. So I just used the basic numbers, ignored the patterning. I went, right, that's what I need to do to get it to there, and then downwards I just like from the underarm down, I just winged it. Knitted it straight for a bit, did a little but tiny bit of waist shaping, and then knitted it a bit more, made some increases for my hips, and then did some ribbon at the bottom. And the sleeves I just kept trying on and going, oh right, that'll about work. I did nearly run out of yarn because the yarn that I've used, I'm going to try it on as I'm talking to you and might be able to tell you a bit more. The yarn that I've used was a bit of a stash buster because I'd found the blue yarn up with it. Right, so super bulky weight or super chunky weight stash buster. The blue yarn is some curly U from Woolly Knit. Obviously it's my favourite wool shop, but I'd actually found it for £1 a ball in the charity shop, so I'd found 3 balls of it, and I thought, oh, I'll make something out of that. And then I had the white, because there's 2 yarns held together for this bit. There's a white and there's some hand spun. Well, the creamy white is some Lofty from Woolly Knit, and then don't know how you're going to be able to see. The hand spun that's with it is blue and purple and pink, and it's got coils of mohair in it. I've not weaved my ends in yet, so I'll just tuck those in. Yeah, that was a bat that I spun. That was from Magpie and Goblin. but I didn't really have plans for that, so I thought, oh, I'll hold it double with this, because the blue is a similar blue to in this curly U. It's a thick and thin yarn, so the knit looks quite textured. So I had one sort of 100-gram ball of the Lofty. Or are they 200-gram balls? No, I think it's one ball anyway of the Lofty. Maybe about 150 grams of my hand spun, but I didn't use all that. In fact, I used very little of the hand spun, and then 300-gram balls of the curly U. But the 300 grams did the 2 sleeves, more or less, and then about this much of the body. So I'm like, oh, bother, because curly U's been discontinued. So I thought, oh, I'm going to have to do some weird striping on the bottom bit, or rip it back, or do something. But then I thought, oh, I'll just have a quick look on the internet. And I found a shop in Scotland, like a little yarn shop up in Scotland somewhere, that had some curly U in stock in the right colourway. I didn't bother checking dye lots. I was rebellious and lived wild and free, and thought, never mind, the cardigan's jazzy enough, I don't care. So I'd finished the 2 sleeves by that point, but they were a little bit short because they were about there. I'm like, it's not quite long enough. So I ordered my balls of yarn. Thought, right, I'll knit the body and we'll see how I get on. And I had still had about 3/4 of a ball left, maybe half a ball after I'd knit the body. So I thought, right, I've got enough to make the sleeves longer. So I ripped out the cuff that I'd done, re-knitted the yarn just in stocking stitch until the yarn ran out, and joined some of the additional ball on and did the ribbing in that. It's got no buttons on and no fastening. It's just a big, another oversized, snuggling on the settee kind of cardigan, which is my favourite kind of cardigan at the minute. Just, I'll snuggle up in my big cardi and feel sorry for myself. For no apparent reason, just because it's winter. So, yes, I'll take some better pictures. I don't know that this is actually, yeah, if I put buttons on it, it'd be a snug fit, especially around my bosom, I think. But no, I'm happy with it as it is for now. Maybe in the future I'll look to put some clasp closures on, the metal clasps that you get on Scandinavian cardigans. But in all honesty, I'd looked at the price of those the other day when I'd finished the cardigan and went, can't afford those. So for now, it'll just be an open fronted one. So that's that. Yes, the curly U is in the Kaya colourway, but like I say, it's another discontinued yarn. Just using up what I have, and obviously buying more because I didn't have enough, but using up what I have. So that's another, got to be another 600 grams at least of cardigan. So I'm on the stash buster in front. I'm actually doing quite well this year, because that's all I've got left from that extra wool that I bought to finish off the cardigan. So it's quite good. And I've got 2 finished objects ticked off my to-do list, or my unfinished objects list. And I've got 2 cardigans, 2 big warm cardigans to wear in the cold weather. And given that it snowed on the school run this morning, albeit briefly, I'd say having big chunky warm cardigans is a good thing. Now, my work in progress. Yes. Some of you may remember that I started the Better World dress in crochet with some hand spun yarn, and then I had to spin some more yarn because I hadn't got enough hand spun, and then I ran out of the extra hand spun, and then I didn't like it anyway. Yeah, the design is beautiful, and on the person modelling it, it looks fantastic. In the yarn that they've used, because I think they used like a cotton linen blend or something, Mine's wool and silk, and I have a curvy frame, so it didn't fit the same, sit the same, drape the same. I didn't feel all yay in it, so I just felt oof. So I thought, right, there's no point in me spinning more yarn to finish this and carry on and make something that I don't like. So it sat in a cupboard for several weeks, and then I went, do you know what, I'm just going to rip it back to a point where I am happy with it. The Better World dress, I started crocheting it last year. I didn't like how it looked on me, because it was very A-line and having quite a big bust. It just didn't hang nicely, or not in a way that made me feel all jazzy and confident. So I decided to rip it back. I will insert a video here. Right, this is the Better World dress that I'd started crocheting. Now, it looks stunningly beautiful there, but as you can see, it's very, very full in its shaping, so it's not the most flattering in the yarn that I've used and with my body size and shape. I think I would get more wear out of it if I kept the fancy bit at the top round the yoke and then did a more fitted shape on the body. I don't think I can do that in the stitch pattern that there is, unless I do some interesting maths. So I might end up with fancy lace yoke and then plain body. I don't quite know what I'm going to do about the sleeves yet, because I'm loath to rip it all out to the very beginning, but the sleeves, if I just ripped it back to where the sleeves are very fluted, so I'm not quite sure what to do there. I think it'd look a bit odd if I like tucked them back in again or cinched them back in again. I'd have very poofy shoulders and got quite beefy farmer's arms as it is, so that might not be the most flattering either, but we shall see, we shall see. So yeah, basically I'm going to be frogging can't even see, this much back to pretty much, oh no, I was going to say back till the pale green, but it's not. It's until at least the dark green, maybe a bit further depending on how it works out with the sleeves. So yeah, fun times. Of me ripping it back and just how much I'd worked and how far I was taking it back. So I took it back to just under the armpits, or where it joined under the armpits to form the body, and tried it on at that point. Thought, right, it's still quite baggy in the body, so I moved the join in further in. If I show you on here, yes, it was joined where these blue bits are, and I've just moved it in to where these stitch markers are. Did I? Yeah, I've done that on both sides. So it was joined where the blue bits are on this side, but I've moved it in one to where the stitch markers are, so it fits closer to the body. And it leaves quite an open fluted sleeve still, which I'm just going to leave short as it's meant to be, because I had thought about just working the body straight and then working the sleeves straight in just trebles, but then I thought no, because there's still a lot of material in this bit, but that bit looks okay, that bit looks nice. Now I did think about just doing the body straight down in trebles, but I really like the patterning on the dress, so I sat down, looked at the pattern, which it's a free pattern, but oh, it was hard work. It looks beautiful when it's finished, but it's not the easiest pattern to follow because it doesn't give you stitch counts and it only gives you partial charts for the row repeats. So you just have to hope that your numbers work out, otherwise it's going to be confusing. So I looked at it and thought, right, where are the increases in each of the rows? Can I work those rows to look similar but just take the increases out, so that the shaping is just straight up and down, but it keeps the basic pattern throughout the dress. So that's what I did. I'm just showing it quickly because it's obviously not my pattern, so I don't want to give too much away, but I sat down and worked out the chart for very similar body patterning but without the increases to make it A-line. Whether that actually works in practice we shall see, but hopefully it will. There might be some fudging under the arm where the stitch counts don't quite meet up, but it will be fine. If anybody's looking at the side seam under my armpit, then quite frankly I'm not going to take any nonsense from them on judgment of my crochet makes, because they're clearly not a trustworthy individual if they're busy looking under my armpit. So yes, that's my next project that I need to work on. It will be ticked off my UFO pile eventually, and hopefully I should have enough yarn with what I've spun so far. I'm not sure how much of the second lot of yarn that I spun I'll have to use, but because the body's straight, there's going to be a lot less fabric involved, so I should have enough to finish the body. But fingers crossed, and we'll see how that goes. Right, exciting time. I have a new pattern coming out soon. It's just finished test knitting, and it's another collaboration with Peyton and Daughter, using some of her, well, I've got a sample worked up in her Wensleydale wool, and I've got a sample worked up in her Corriedale wool. The pattern's going to be with the Corriedale wool, but it worked out with both, and they're slightly different colours and they both look beautiful. Again, it's naturally dyed wool, breed specific, non-superwash, and it's dyed with ivy berries, I think. Yes. So I think I had about 12 test knitters this time, which was an interesting challenge because that's the most I've ever had, and some of them were absolutely amazing, knitted it so quickly, were really polite and professional, and were just like, yeah, these are the corrections that need making, shawl looks fabulous, ta-da, I've finished it, I blocked it and done some professional quality photographs. It's just like, they're better than my product pictures, that's not fair. But no, they were, and honestly, I hope they volunteer to do test knits for me again, because they were just brilliant. So here is the final design. This is the Tumbling Ivy Shawl. It will be a paid for pattern, but as with most of our patterns, there will be a period where it is free for the first couple of days, I think. So that's it in the Corriedale, and this is it in the Wensleydale. I'm really proud of this. This is my first design that's got proper grown-up lace in it. Lace knitting's not not my favourite. You watch me, you'll know that I much prefer colour work as a sort of one of my advanced knitting styles. If I'm doing something that's jazzy and holy, I'd prefer to do in crochet normally. But I've really enjoyed doing this shawl. I really enjoyed designing it. I really enjoyed knitting it, obviously because I've knitted it twice. And it helps that the wool's wonderful to work with, but I think I might actually have found a love of lace knitting. Not all lace knitting, because one of the reasons why I love this is because you have sections of just simple eyelets and stocking stitch, and then the lace repeat is easy. For someone who doesn't like lace, it's easy, or who didn't previously like lace, it's easy. And if I can enjoy knitting lace with my previous dislike of it, then I think anybody should be able to give it a try and have a go, because it's got plenty enough to just sit in front of the telly and just go, yeah, la 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 la, I'm not really concentrating, I'm knitting. And then occasionally like, all right, I need to concentrate on this bit. And then for the end lace section, I could watch telly and knit at the same time. I couldn't have had anybody else in the same room as me. That's because I was designing, the first time I was designing it as I went. And then I could have had this, when I knitted the second one, I wouldn't have minded somebody being in the same room, but they wouldn't have been allowed to talk to me. Or running in between rows. But yes, I'm waffling, but basically there's an interesting bit, there's a simple bit, there's a good mixture, and yeah, it's for a single skein, like a 400-gram skein of fingering weight yarn, and it should be released possibly next week, depending on what else I've got on, or ideally next week, because the week after's half term and I don't really want to be trying to do it when I'm looking after the children. Yeah, so hopefully it should be out next week. And so the last thing that I wanted to talk about was an upcoming design, so I'm just briefly going to flash that at you if I can get it. So at the minute it's living in a plastic bag because yeah, plastic bag was recycled from something else. It'd come with something else in it, so I've just used it as a project bag because I am classy and sophisticated. Yes, so sneaky peek. So it's for another shawl. It's, you can see it's mostly greens, some basic lace, lots of garter stitch, some striping, and it's going to be a version of something that I've knit before, but in different colours and actually written down this time, because the first one I made, I just knitted it and wore it and loved it, and then had several people go, oh, that's really nice, what's that? And I'm like, oh, I just made it up. So I had a few people ask for the pattern, so I thought, oh, I'll eventually get around to doing it, which is what I'm doing. Although I'm knitting this version, I'm like, nah, I like my original version better. Colour wise, I might like this one more once I've finished it, but the original version I prefer the colours on, but never mind. I'm not far off. Oh no, I've probably still got about a third of it to go, and then obviously I have to type it up, take pictures, get it test knitted and what have you. So I'm hoping to get it out for test knitting next month, so it can be released possibly April time. We shall see, we shall see. So yes, that looks like I've been really busy, but I don't feel like I have. I've not done any sewing, I've not done any spinning or weaving. I've just been trying to get on and do knitting and crochet and finish off some designs and finish off some projects that have been languishing in the back of the cupboard. But yes, that's me done. I'll put a list somewhere at the end of things that I've mended this month. There's going to be quite a bit. Well, no, January. I'll put February up at the end of the month, because hopefully that will record before the end of February again. But yeah, I've been trying to do at least one, maybe two mends a week. But I think in January I did more than that, because I had more to mend. I don't think I've put... I keep having to mend the dog's bed because she chews it. But I don't think I've put that on there. And I must have mended that at least 3 times last month. She's doing well though. She managed to keep it for nearly... Well, when did we get her? We got her May last year, and it's now February, and she's still got the same like soft fluffy bed. She's grown out of several harder outdoor beds, but no, because I've mended her soft fluffy bed that many times, she's still got the same one that she had when we got her in May, which I think for puppies is quite good going, because they do have a reputation for trashing things. So I'm quite happy with, from a sustainability standpoint, that we've managed to get it to last and not had to replace it yet. But anyway, this video is going to be ridiculously long because there is a lot of waffling in it. But we'll see how much I edit out, and if I can remember how to edit, which is always a challenge when I've not recorded for a while. But yes, thank you for putting up with the waffle and the listening. And hopefully I'll see you in a much shorter time frame next time, and for a shorter video as well. Alright then, take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.